The Chinese may be an awful regime, but they are smart. And if we prioritize climate change over containing China, it's just going to make them even stronger, for sure. Who better to talk about all of this than somebody who helped get us out of the disastrous Paris Climate Accords? We're joined now by Steve Milloy, former Trump transition team member and founder of junkscience.com. Steve, good to see you.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me.
Sure, yeah. Let's address the science part of this first, and we're going to go back to our good friend John Kerry.
Increasingly, I believe, more and more convinced by the heat in the summer, by the floods, by the weather, by the intensity of storms, by the rising of sea level, that we got to get moving.
I've seen a lot of people, Steve, they've ripped that apart. What do you make of that? Give me your retort.
Well, it's just total nonsense. I mean, John Kerry has got to be the dumbest guy on the planet. He doesn't know anything about climate. You know, he says he claims to be very interested in it, but he has obviously done nothing but read the New York Times.
Yeah.
There's no evidence that the weather is worse or, different because of carbon dioxide emissions. Sea level rise has been constant for 150 years. It's actually cooler now in the United States than it was during the 1930s. It's just total nonsense. I mean, John Kerry laid it out yesterday, and you ran this clip. John Kerry said that even if we go to net zero emissions, we're still going to have a climate problem. What does that tell you? That tells you that this is never going to end because it's not a real problem. It's about grabbing control of our society.
Yeah, I mean, and the best part was, I mean, you got us out of the Paris Accords. I mean, I loved when he admitted just a couple weeks ago that the Paris Accords weren't really doing anything. He finally had to admit that when he was trying to get more power, right?
Well, if you care about emissions, I mean, I don't, but if you do, the United States is the only one that has cut emissions. All the Paris signatories, their emissions are going up more through the roof, like China, India, and other developing countries.
Right.
We're the only stupid ones.
Yeah. I want to move to how young people are being indoctrinated by this, because I've seen some scary stories about kids. I mean, these are little kids, and, you tell them that the world's going to end in 10 years. They freak out. Rightly so. You tweeted out these comments from California Congresswoman Katie Porter during yesterday's Earth Day hearing. Let's take a listen.
I told my 9-year-old daughter that I was going to be speaking with you, and I said, what do you think about the climate change? And she said, the earth is on fire, and we're all going to die soon. And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
This is child abuse, Steve.
It's ideological child abuse. Yeah. I mean, it's so sad. This has been going on since Al Gore released that stupid movie, The Inconvenient Truth, which was all wrong. The climate agenda is used to brainwash all school children, kids in college. You can't even be a student and ask questions about climate. You just need to swallow it, move on. And of course, some of these kids that really, don't know one thing from another, of course they're terrified by this. I mean, if they're telling you the world is going to end, you're scared. When I was young, we lived under the cloud of, nuclear, destruction. And so, people were a little worried. And so this is the same thing with climate. It's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah. I want to say something because, as a person, I don't know where all this falls. I don't know the science that well. I read as much as I can. I'm not a scientist, obviously. I don't like to see, emissions and black smoke dumping up into the sky. I don't like to see pollution in the ocean and the way, Southeast Asia's oceans look, stuff like that. But the funniest thing to me about this is that they say it's so crucial, and then they sign a deal that allows the biggest emitters of carbon and all these other things to just continue on and incentivizes them to do it even more before 2030. And it's just, it's like either they believe in this or they're idiots. It's one or the other.
Well, look, yesterday China said that historical emissions are not their problem, and they're not cutting their emissions. Right now China is building coal power worth the entire U.S. fleet. India, Prime Minister Modi said that India's standard of living is 60% below global poverty level. They're not cutting. Vladimir Putin, he had the most subtle and most wry comment of all. He said that Russia is basically carbon neutral because its grasslands and forests absorb all its carbon dioxide. The whole thing is hilarious. This is a suicide pact the United States is trying to enter. No one else is going to live by it except Joe Biden is going to try to make us.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that China is going to just go in with us, I mean, it's like, how ridiculously naive can these people possibly be? I want to end on this. What is let's say he actually gets this thing through, which I don't think happens, but what would be the economic impact of the plan as it stands right now, Biden's climate plan?
Well, so the thing is that Biden has now committed essentially to 50% of the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is impossible to implement. I mean, you can say, yeah, half the Green New Deal is going to cost $50 trillion. You can't even do it. So, but the worst thing is that they're going to try to do it. Okay, they're going to wreck our economy trying to do this.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Steve Milloy, former Trump EPA transition team member. Sir, thank you so much for the time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Coming up, Democrats, of course.